All right, good morning. How you doing, Cameron?
Man, I am fantastic. I'm full blown extreme ownership. I rolled out of bed and took a screenshot. 4:24 a.m. baby.
Yeah, buddy. And there's Steve Rodemeyer, good old Steve, first in the chat. My man. So, okay, and I did go ahead and order the dryer vent cleaning attachment for the vacuum cleaner while the intro was rolling.
And by the by, we can thank good old Steve for our topic today. He's the OG. The Brushfire Mind started out as three dudes, and Steve was the third dude, and that's why he is the moderator. He does wield the band hammer.
And in fact, let me throw a little more sunshine on good old Steve there. The name of the whole project, the Brushfire Mind, that was Steve's brainchild. He formulated that from the Sam Adams quote, "It is not a majority, but rather a tireless and irate minority, setting brush fires of liberty in the minds of men." Oh, Steve says, to be fair, Tim and Krista posted first. Y'all just can't see it. Oh, okay, I got you. So, yeah, if y'all start posting in the live chat before I actually hit the button to start broadcasting, then it doesn't get to us. But, my bad. Ma has joined us, and Trish is with us. Trish, I appreciate that you've been watching more often, too. I really do. And like I said, Krista's there. Love you guys. Apparently Tim's floating around somewhere. So good morning, Tim. Steve just said Tim, so I don't know if that's my cousin Tim. Yep, it's Tim. Village people look suits donned to a... Oh, yes. The village people look suits donned to a T. Yeah, dude. And Uncle Steve, good layers. Lord. You know, it's like a family reunion every morning up in here. Cameron, you should text your dad and tell him to roll his ass out of bed and watch the show.
Yeah, that'd be funny, having Papa Sheepdog in the chat on top of everything else.
Or your brother.
So,
anyway,
you know, I love when we get to talk about things like this, because this is not the first time we talked about the 1619 project. This is one of those times where you and I were prophetic, because we talked about the 1619 project when it first dropped. Yep. And we had commentary that said that it's radical, it's bullshit, it's just going to confuse the issue, it's not going to improve race relations, and it's not actual history. To suggest that the foundation of the country revolves entirely around slavery is just false. It's absolutely false. You can make the argument that it revolved around European imperialism and the need to expand territory and the belief in mercantilism, that there was a finite amount of wealth in the world and you had to go get it before everybody else did. All of that's there. All of that's valid. And slavery was even part of that. But to reduce the foundation of this country down to the year 1619, because that's the first time a black person was brought here in chains, is just stupid and incorrect. And luckily, we've got Don Lemon, the worst journalist of the year, Don Lemon, to help us make that point.
Yeah. Real quick, before we dig into that too much, Dad just popped in. He says, happy 5-5. Sure enough, happy Cinco de Mayo.
Revenge of the 5th?
Revenge of the 5th. This is the May. This is the May. You know, when I first saw the meme with the Mandalorian and This is the May, I honestly gave, not a lot, but a very brief moment of consideration to just trying to make the entire month about Star Wars. But, and don't get it twisted. We could do it. I mean, for God's sake, we've got 15 movies if you include the Ewoks.
I don't.
I do.
I don't, but I understand.
Okay, let me solve you right there. If you're going to include the Disney trilogy, that cinematic abortion, you must include the Ewoks, because your argument can no longer be about the quality of the film.
I don't. And the Veil of the Force is going to come back around. Golly. I wish we could talk about Star Wars, because the ultimate FU is coming to Kathleen Kennedy. But,
yes. And we will talk about that some other time. Today we're talking about Don Lemon, the worst journalist of the year. And, okay, so when we say worst journalist of the year, understand, Don Lemon was actually awarded worst journalist of the year.
Like 2012? I forget the exact details, but it just became its own meme, and it's too funny not to roll with.
Okay. I'll go ahead and pull it up. Hollywood Reporter, worst journalist of the year, 2014. Don Lemon has picked up a dubious honor, ranking in a Columbia Journalism Review Fellows list of the worst journalism of 2014. There you go.
Well, look, Chris, you got to be willing to take chances and suggest that maybe sometimes airplanes get sucked into miniature black holes that disappear once they swallow the airplane.
Dad says golf? I don't... Are you asking me if I want to go play golf this morning? I don't know, old man. I don't know. So... Don Lemon. Got to back up a little bit, give you just a little bit of backdrop. Chris Cuomo did an interview with Rick Santorum the other day.
The lesser of the two Cuomos? And
yes.
God, is that saying something?
Yeah. Well, in fairness, when you're talking about the two Cuomos and the lesser of, Chris is the lesser in every conceivable way, including the lesser of two evils. He's not directly responsible for any deaths, arguably.
As opposed to Governor Nipple Ring?
As opposed to Governor Nipple Bars. That T-shirt left nothing to the imagination, my friend. Those were not rings. Those were barbells.
Or bizarre cancer. But...
Not the triple nipple. So, apparently Santorum said something, the U.S. was settled predominantly by people who were coming to practice their faith. There's maybe a little bit of argument to be had there. Maybe. It was initially contacted... Okay, that's a whole nother rabbit hole. They came mostly from Europe, and they set up a country that was based on Judeo-Christian principles. Again, sort of. I'm not saying that it wasn't, but that's a pretty...
There's more to it than that.
Yeah.
It's basically true.
So after Cuomo accused Santorum of trying to erase diversity in the interest of some white Christian right, Santorum said that he misspoke about the impact that American Indian tribes had on U.S. culture, and that he was specifically discussing the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. So apparently, so Santorum said America's founding fathers birthed the nation from nothing. Yes, we have Native Americans, but candidly, there isn't much Native American culture in American culture. So let's touch on that real quick. That is a functionally true statement. If you look around America culturally, what you will find is that there is a great deal of influence on what we refer to as Americana, which is kind of, the whole Route 66, the biker motorcycle clubs, baseball, other sports to a lesser degree. Baseball, there's a lot of Indian iconography in baseball. The teams being named after animals, and of course, teams like the Braves, the Indians, the Redskins, so on and so forth.
Football, and they're not called the Redskins anymore. But
yes, they are.
Continue.
Yes, they are. They will always be the Redskins. Honestly, I don't have a dog in that fight. I don't care about baseball so much. But
It's football.
But for the purpose of this conversation, the influence of Native American iconography on Americana, kind of the nostalgia for a better age, Americana, that's very present. But for the most part, the rest of American culture is very uniquely American. It's the influences that came from Europe on American culture have diverged dramatically, so that modern European culture and modern American culture are very different. Now, in the same way that, or maybe more correctly, to the same degree that the Native Americans have influenced Americana, sure, the country is spotted over with places like Helen, Georgia, and Leavenworth, Washington, which are little German towns where there's a local ordinance that says all your architecture has to look like, Bavarian butchers and bakery shops. And those are cool little places to visit. There's the cuisine, mostly scrap meat stuffed into intestines, but hey, I like a sausage. I especially like a roasted ham hock. Oh Lord! if you've never had a slow roasted Schweinehaxen served with Rotkraut, then my friend, you've missed something, and you should correct that. Unfortunately, however, the really good ones are in Leavenworth, Washington, and that's just way too far. So I have to tolerate a mediocre one in Helen, Georgia, from time to time. Anyway, so Don Lemon responds to this and says, Cameron, I don't even know if I could say these words out loud quoting someone. Europeans actually had nothing to do with the founding of this country. That is a direct quote. Don Lemon, worst journalist of the year, Mr. Black Holes swallowed that aircraft, said that Europeans actually had nothing to do with the founding of the country. So the reason this is making some headlines is because Don Lemon works for CNN. CNN gave us the 1619 Project, and Don Lemon has previously supported the 1619 Project.
It's crazy to me. He makes more money than me and you and everybody in the chat put together. Like, he's not just this dumb. He's not just this wrong. He gets paid stupid amounts of money to be this dumb and this wrong. Like, this is the same idiot that actually said that when he gets pulled over by the cops, he gives them attitude. I don't think, you idiot! Why would you do that? Well, because you've got, that whole moral superiority thing where you feel entitled. That it's a thing that the elite left does frequently. One of the things that I love about the internet and the fact that it's getting harder and harder to memory hold things is, once upon a time, Don Lemon could have supported the 1619 Project and talked about how important it was that we start to teach the true history. And then when he contradicted it later, nobody would be able to prove the contradiction. The fact that the left has moved the goalpost based entirely on the emotion of the moment. But now, now it's all on record forever and ever. Thank you, Al Gore, for inventing that there internet.
It's mostly a system of tubes. So, okay, let's dig in just a little bit, and I want you to understand what the 1619 Project is. So, here's Grade Saver getting you the grade. The 1619 Project summary. To summarize the entire history of African Americans and African American slavery in North America and the United States in particular would be exceedingly difficult. That's a true statement no matter what the parameters are that you set. To summarize the entire history of Irish Americans and, okay, yes.
I mean, to summarize your own personal history for the past couple of years would actually be fairly difficult, especially if you're trying to make it as succinct as possible. That's why there's books and books and books and books and books that are written about history.
Yes. And Dad asks, can we talk about 1776 tomorrow? We're going to talk about that a little bit today. That context is incredibly important. So,
you know what I like is what you hit me with while we were doing our show prep. I did not realize that the founder of the 1619 Project had accidentally admitted that the 1619 Project is fiction. That's hysterical.
Yeah. So one of the things, okay, I'll get back to that in just a second. Okay, so the 1619 Project attempts to do just that through essays, poems, short fiction, and a photo essay. Short fiction. Essays, poems, short fiction, and a photo essay. Nicole Hannah-Jones, the woman that put this project together, I'm not sure if she's still employed by CNN, or I'm sorry, by the New York Times, rather. She got a Pulitzer for this.
Well, yeah, it's sort of like when 7 Years a Slave won the Oscar for the Best Picture, and you found out that some of the people that voted for it never even saw the movie. They just saw the title. They saw who was in it. And they were like, oh, it's racial. Okay, they win. That's exactly why she got the Pulitzer. And boy, if you really want to break your brain, look up the history of the Pulitzer Prize. It's not necessarily a compliment to win it.
Correct. The Pulitzer Prize is essentially an award for propaganda. Kind of like the Nobel Peace Prize is now.
Well, in fairness, Donnie Two Scoops did get nominated like 8 times, something like that.
Yeah, but so did BLM. So here's what we do have about the 1619 Project. Nope, that's not it. 1619 Project founder admits it's not a history, but a fight to control the national narrative. Okay, now, keep in mind, people are still arguing about the 1619 Project. This article is from July 29th of last year, from PJ Media. So that's Bill Whittle and those guys. This is by Tyler O'Neill. On Monday, Nicole, and the article says on Monday, again, this is from last summer. Nicole Hannah-Jones, founder of the New York Times 1619 Project, admitted that her project is not a history and that the battle over it is about memory. A fight to control the national narrative. Senator Tom Cotton has moved to defund schools that teach the project. That's right. The fact that Senator Tom Cotton has moved to defund schools that teach the project, there's something scary there. There were schools that teach or taught the project. Steve points out Whittle isn't with PJ Media. You're right. He was one of the founding members from PJ Media, but he's not with them anymore. You're correct. So Nicole Hannah-Jones, and Cameron pointed out while we were doing our show prep this morning, she didn't actually say that it's a fiction. But she did say it's not about history. It is not a history. I've always said that the 1619 Project is not a history. It is a work of journalism that explicitly seeks to challenge the national narrative and therefore the national memory. So, you don't know what journalism is.
Or hell, maybe she does. Think about what happened with that whole thing where supposedly that Rudy Giuliani was tipped off to the raid coming to his apartment, and then all the news media outlets ran with it, and it ended up being false, and they all had to retract it. Maybe in the modern sense of the word journalism, she's practicing it perfectly.
You mean, yeah, basically, journalists are activists. You should regard every journalist, including myself, with a great deal of skepticism. There are no more journalists. I don't pretend to be a journalist. I wear a press badge and argue that I'm practicing my First Amendment right. I am not a journalist. I am not a reporter. I am a pain in the ass. And that's true of everybody else who wears those credentials. Period.
Yeah, but the difference is we admit it. Yes, I am partisan. I have a point of view. I am grounded in a particular political philosophy. Sometimes things inside that philosophy shift as my life experience changes, and that's really the problem. There's always been biased news. This is one of the oldest arguments I've had with people ever since I started having arguments. Is that, oh, well, you need a non-biased news source. Yeah, okay. I also need a unicorn that's going to shit gold nuggets. It'd be great, but it doesn't exist. Okay? So...
that's right, because unicorns shit delicious sherbet.
I know the commercial to which you're referring, and it's still just the mental image.
You mean the best commercial ever?
I don't know that I'm going to agree with you on that one, sir. Whew. But anyhow, there's no such thing as unbiased news. The question is, are they being honest about the bias? It's one reason why I put a lot of stock in Tim Pool. Is Tim Pool hyperbolic at times? Yes. But is Tim Pool honest about what his opinions are and where they line up with facts and what his opinion about how to read a certain situation is? Yes, 100% transparent in that. So I tend to trust Tim Pool as a source because he's not trying to hide anything from me. And that's a big deal. Whereas the whole point of the 1619 Project is literally obfuscation. They are trying to change the memory because they want to change the history.
So for everybody that was just listening to Cameron and watching the shenanigans on the other side of the screen, I just got down to the bottom of my coffee cup and there was a mason jar lid in there.
I'm not real sure how that happened.
Yep. Yeah, it's a new program at the Lowry House of sanitizing the lids in hot coffee. Dad asked, do I want a fresh cup? No, I'll we're gonna be done here in just a few minutes and I'll go get some hot coffee upstairs in a clean cup after that. Oh, that's okay though. I have my emergency backup cup here.
Oh dear.
That's preparation for you. So, 1619 Project. One of the things that the 1619 Project claims explicitly is that the American Revolutionary War was fought to preserve slavery. That we fought a war against Europe, against England, because we were afraid that they were going to take our slaves away. There are some problems with that narrative. Namely that,
It's not true?
well, and how not true is it?
It's so ridiculously not true. This is one of those things where the left's own narratives crash into each other. Because you could argue that the very imperialism that the left claims to hate with such a passion is part of what the Revolutionary War was fought against. They were tired of being told what to do by some government hundreds of miles away that nobody's ever even met a representative of. Why do we have to follow their rules? Just because they say they're better than us? Um, but instead, like, because they've got to twist their brains into this pretzel logic just so they can always hate the right people. Because that's what it's about. The left has always been about hating the right people. It's just over the years it's gone from hating the right dark people to hating the right white people. But yeah, to say that it was about slavery ignores the other narrative that they've ran with forever, that European history is just full of, the might of the empire and the conquering of the other countries and the stealing of the resources. It's so wrong. It is so wrong. It hurts my brain.
Yeah, and it's also the case that England abolished slavery before anybody else. That's true. But they did it in 1833, 50 years after the end of the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, and it's important to understand the context that chattel slavery was never terribly popular, especially among the white Christian, that whole Zionist subculture that basically was part of the culture that informed English common law and all that. And let's not forget that it's not like British people went to Africa, conquered tribes, and then took slaves. No, British people did go to Africa, and the tribe that had conquered another tribe said, hey, we've got these extra slaves. Do you want them? And they were like, well, they're already conquered. We'll take them. And I'm not saying that makes it okay, but it's important to understand that we're talking about a minority of British people that engaged in this practice and a minority of American people that engaged in this practice. This was never a popular thing. It always made the majority uncomfortable. It just was not as easy as one would think to get rid of it. And let's not forget, you know how Britain ended slavery? Why you don't hear about the British Civil War to end slavery? Because the British government figured out, okay, the slave owners consider their slaves property. So if we're going to take their slaves away, we have to compensate them. So yes, the British government literally bought its way out of slavery.
And they just paid off the national debt that they accrued buying all those slaves 2 years ago.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, that was
new every day.
That was a major headline. It may not have even been that long ago. British slave debt paid off. Let's see if that.
Did it?
Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm off. It was 2015 that they paid it off. They finished paying off the debt that they accrued from freeing the slaves almost 6 years ago.
So let me ask you a question, buddy. It's coming up on 8 o'clock, and I have to hard out. We never did touch 1776. Do you just want to do a part 2 of this topic tomorrow morning and call the 1776 project the Toter Win? Roll it all together?
You know what? I like that. Let's do that. Yeah, let's go ahead and put a pin in it right here. It's 2 minutes to 8. We'll go ahead and button it up right here, and tomorrow we will talk about 1776 and the ultimate Toter Win. Yeah, that'll work. All right, brother. You be safe out there. Y'all be safe out there. Thanks for watching. Love ya, and we will see you tomorrow.